Okay, balik po tayo. Ito, meron tanong dito na hinahanap isang tao. Let me see the telephone number as soon as it's flashed on our screen. 0930-590-6797 from Joel Calambro, North Cotabato. Good evening, sirs, Ray and Toti, and good evening to you. Ask ko lang kung nasaan si Jun Losada na whistleblower. How much ang binayad sa kanya para isiwalat ang NBN scam?
Well, I know
nasaan ba si Jun Losada? Hindi naman tayo lost and found. So I have no idea where Jun Losada is now.
Okay, we heard that, syempre, he was released during the Aquino administration, and then recently another case was filed against him. Now, I don't know what was the objective of the case filed against him anew. No, because you remember that
still about this ATED?
Hindi yata. It's something to do with that Phil Forrest. Kasi sinabi daw niya in his testimony that he had some money inputted in the Phil Forrest. So it's nothing to do with ZTE anymore. It has something to do with, I think, with, I'm not, my memory is not sharp, but something to that effect is what I recall. Now, as far as he got himself into providing services for, I remember LaSalle Green Hills, requiring the students to invest on a tablet so that they can have the books cared for them. Pero nangyari pala, binabayaran pa pala yung license nung copyright ng book, so which was not inputted. So they ended up, it's cheaper for the parents to buy on the hardbound than to pay the, so it failed, but it was another lesson to learn. As to whether what he's doing right now, I don't think it's any more business as far as NBN is concerned, or the ZTE. It's a closed book already. But now that the former president GMA is out, and she's now sitting in the Congress, and we know that the two between former President GMA and President Duterte are still talking to each other. For sure, nakokonsulta ni President Duterte si former President Gloria, because it was in her vision, it was during her administration that envisioned the cyber corridor, and not during the past administration.
Now, let's try to separate the two problems. No, most of the people who watch this program, for example, are concerned with speed.
Oh yeah.
Okay. The National Broadband Network, which is part of a serious upgrade of our IT capabilities in this country,
yes,
which involves both speed and interconnectivity. Ang gusto malaman ng tao, there seems to be a deadlock kasi eh.
Okay.
The entry, there are two dominant companies, Smart and Globe. And then the funny part is they together joined to buy 70% of SMB. Telco company, no?
Yung Telstra, yung sa Australia.
Hindi natuloy.
Ni Ramon Ang, which Ramon Ang sold out. So that he had a franchise from Telstra of Australia, and what the story behind that is, I don't know, it's just what hearsay, is that what the Australian counterpart did was they put in money, what the Filipino entity was put in assets as an equity, and they said that's not what we need. We need also equivalent capital so that we can bring in the technology. And somehow it took a sour note. Naghiwalay yung dalawa. So what San Miguel did was to sell na lang that to the two companies, the franchise.
I know, but the question that we have to ask ourselves is, was it right for these two companies to buy in? Is that not in restraint of trade?
Do we have an antitrust law?
Oh, yes.
Then it must have been the consumers that would already petition against that.
Who would file that complaint, if any, no?
Well, I would imagine the consumers, such as like Internet Society of the Philippines, the Philippine Internet Society of the organization, or the Philippine Internet Computer Society, meron silang grupong ganyan. Mostly yung mga retail users, yung mga end users, because they're the ones buying it on retail, and they're the ones spending the money.
Because what our studies have shown is indicated that for a third party to come in, ideally, there should be 5 players. But for a third party to come in what appears to be a cabal already established, or a duopoly, as they say, is going to be virtually impossible.
Yes.
So, whether we like it or not, hindi makakapasok ang third party. What is needed in order to be able to open up that area?
Okay, that's a good point, no? If, let's say, they have approved the plan, would it require an enabling law? If it does require an enabling law, what you're saying, Brother Ray, then they came up with some guidelines on the eligibility of those who can get that contract. If they say those existing are no longer qualified, then by all means, they will not bid. So it is open to new players, provided they have the necessary backgrounds, they have the experience, they have enough capital, they have backed up by foreign companies that have already track record, etc. If that was the case, then okay, maybe we could have a more level playing field.
What they're saying is that for anybody to come in as a third player, it's almost competitively virtually impossible.
Okay.
Naniniwala ka ba doon?
No, it's possible. Look, ito lang, historically, no? When we had Smart and Globe, a third player came in the person of Sun. TM is not a third player because TM is a subsidiary of Globe. Talk and Text is a subsidiary of Smart. So they're still within the duopoly. But Sun was entirely a different group by themselves. And then, unfortunately, they were bought in by one company. Smart bought Sun. So we're back to duo, okay? But if they have some restrictions as not to, for the anti-monopoly, to maintain, as you said, 3 to 5 telco players in the country, that would be a healthy situation. But it seems that
the likelihood of that is probably very poor.
Unless you really have a very strong and robust antitrust law in the country.
Or unless the president is really determined to open the field.
Yeah.
Which in the past he claims to be willing to do.
Let's go back historically again. During the time of FBR, when they came up with the telecoms liberalization law, that opened the door beyond the single player then, which was PLDT, which allowed companies like Globe and Smart to come in. Remember, Smart was independent of PLDT before Smart bought into PLDT, right? So when that liberalization came into effect, there were new players that were not really traditionally in that industry, the person of Globe and the person of Smart. What I recall is Globe then bought Globe Mackay, and Globe Mackay was Telegraph.
Yeah.
And in the company, with that franchise, they expanded it to mobile and wireless. So, but in the person of, let's say, Smart was really out from nowhere and then came in, and then that expanded the telecom. So, in retrospect, that kind of policy was done. Now, maybe it's high time that our legislators revisit that law.
I think they do. They should revisit.
They should revisit
and write new rules.
Yes. Probably our society should be the ones to tell the Committee on Telecoms to submit some possible recommendation.
Yeah.
In answer to your texter's message, what can a Philippine Community Society do? It will be our role to be submitting this to the Committee on Television, both houses, the Senate and the Congress, and then to write and says, we would like to say that to make this successful, we would expand this to allow this to be expanded on a third or fourth player.
Or maybe it's this question asked, 0933-858-0014 from Natividad of Nueva Ecija. Hindi ba pwedeng papanagutin ang mga telcos o kaya ibawas sa bill natin ang mga drop calls, internet low speed? Para bang kailangan mo ng consumer bill of rights dito against the telcos eh?
Actually, if there is a way to capture how many of them are victims of drop calls and low internet speeds, okay, maybe in a social media it will work. Now, if social media, okay, like Facebook, and they have this kind of survey, how many of you have encountered this by voting, and then they count it, and then they show that as evidence to the legislators, whether Congress and the Senate, then it's up to them to call the attention of these telcos. Because from the consumer perspective, direct to the telcos, nothing will happen. They will just be ignored. But
Looks like it.
It's been like that. I mean, take it from us. We tried to through all the channels, and the only way they will listen to is when they're called by the Senate and Congress. Otherwise, they'll be charged contempt. So when they're invited and they're having this, and they can have all these witnesses, and they say, blah, 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 this, we're suffering on drop calls, we're suffering from low internet speed.
Or the trouble with that survey like that on the internet is that the telcos themselves can bombard it with favorable reports.
Yeah, because syempre.
So, anong paniniwalaan mo dyan?
Because that's their line of business. That is true. Even though, let's say, this administration is approved, what I'm really getting the impression from you, brother, is that even though na-approve na nga ng administration yan, it wouldn't still take off real easy, as much as it's a welcome development in our economy, in our state, because of this kulatilia na we can say, ano na naman yan, another delay. Dapat nga ganito eh. I was talking to one NTC director. So alam mo, Toti, ang problema kasi dito, we are nobody to the big players eh. But if the law, the Congress comes out, if you fail to submit this level of
may penalty.
May penalty ka. To the point of first, second, third offense. The third offense, tanggal na sa iyo prangkisa. If that's how steady the law is, maybe this will discipline the telcos.
Or the telcos will fight you in Congress by bribing all the congressmen.
Well, that's another line that we have to cross. Another bridge we have to cross. But I mean, if there was a more powerful, advocacy not only in our organization but also the public themselves through social media, then and only then probably they would listen.
Well, maybe you can spearhead it as this fellow who texted in 0916-461-7106. Wala bang magagawa ang Philippine Computer Society para maprotektahan ng mga consumer laban sa mga telcos na usaping pagkain ng load? Can you not establish, for example, I'm pushing you on this, within Philippine Computer Society, like a consumer department where all these things can happen.
Right.
And even if you just simply compile all the complaints, etc., but if you make it public, you will get a lot of response.
Yeah. Well, by nature, our organization is really an association of IT professionals, and our mission is to promote the practice of IT and the ethical conduct.
I hope as well as improvement of the service.
Yes. Now, going to the consumer protection plan, although that is not in our purview, but by all means we can embrace that if we have all this. Because we are also now venturing into the education as well as in legislation, and of course consumer protection will be the other field. As to how to amass the numbers, being a society organization, maybe we have to build a facility like a social media, wherein we can get in all these complaints. And then from these complaints, we can use that as evidence to submit that to the legislators, whether it's in both houses actually, and for them to concede. And then we would encourage the individuals to also write their own respective congressmen and the committees in charge of telecommunications and all of that, to say their grievances. Because that way, then the committee will say, it's now coming from the public, it's coming from my constituents, we need to address this. Because until there is no official communication, even it's handwritten, it receives by the committee on television, they can just Google it. Go to the House of Congress, go to the Senate, and look at the committee chairs, and then from there send it a letter, and then have them receive it. And from that time on, that's when they all start to question. Because when I was talking to the chief of staff of some of these senators, they take heart to all those letters. They don't ignore them. Because they had to show to their constituents that they are responding to the call of their voters.
So dapat talaga
kailangan talaga in writing. Hindi pwede yung media lang tayo, we announce. It has to be addressed to the chairman themselves.
Kung kaya yung mga natatakot ilantad ng kanilang sarili.
Well, you can use a pseudonym just like when you write a letter.
But I don't see the point.
To hide your personality? Well, sure, why not?
If I'm supposed to have 5 kbps, wala ako dito. Alam mo, yung computer mo kasi yan, meron tester yan kung anong speed mo eh.
Meron nga.
Kung gagamitin mo yan, makikita mo. And then you can observe several times during the day.
Exactly.
Anong speed ko?
Exactly.
Tapos ang gagawin mo ngayon, pag text ka o magsusulat ka dito, either through Facebook to Philippine Computer Society or to the head of the committee in Congress or the Senate, lagay mo, I did a test of my speeds.
And not only that.
Ganitong mga oras.
And not only that, he can take a picture of the display on the screen and send it as a document, as an evidence. Tama. You're right about that.
And that is going to be very difficult to ignore.
Oh, yes.
At you give then the ones in charge of that committee very real evidence.
Yes, exactly.
That they cannot deny.
Correct. Correct. And then the only way you can even capture that all you have to do is control print screen in your keyboard, and you get a picture of that screen that says your speed rate is so and so, and then you open either MS Word or MS PowerPoint, and then you click save. It will capture that as a film, and then you can save it as a JPEG or as a PDF file or as a PowerPoint file or as a Word file. It's there. Then you send that picture to your congressman.
Yeah,
or
pero
to
hindi
senator.
lang kukunin mo. You test several times
Yeah.
in the day.
I agree.
And then maybe make it last for a whole week.
Oh, lalabas naman doon yung yung date and time. Lalabas din naman doon sa logbook yung address mo, etc. So, it's a very telling story, and then that can be interpreted by the legislators.
That's computer activism.
Hacktivists, as they call it.
Okay, we have to pause for a few reminders. We'll be right back.